No, I start with a cliche and then subvert it. And you're absolutely right. All photographers, especially all those thousands of amateur photographers out there who really want to be better, I guess the people in the camera clubs, people using Instagram, they have an idea in their head of the sort of, and I have them as well, 1,000 greatest pictures ever taken, and they try and replicate that. And that's the sort of goalpost that they hang on to. My job is to avoid that goalpost, but start from it.
So much has been written about you. We wondered if you would be willing to give us a self-portrait in 2 or 3 sentences that you think sums up your life.
Okay, well, I guess I've been a photographer now for like 57 years, and I've connected myself to the world out there through photography. I've got to know myself. I've got to know the world that I've been photographing. I've done a lot of photographs all around the world, but I still probably prefer photographing in England. It's the place that I know very well, and a place that is a constant challenge for me to try and get better pictures, which are extremely elusive. I take maybe 10 a year if I'm lucky. That means like 60, 55 years to get 60. A lot of work, isn't it? What am I doing?
Can I ask you a question we ask all our photographer guests, which is, what is the last thing you saw that you either did or felt like you wanted to photograph in the last week or days?
Strangely enough, I was in the Lee Miller show, and just looking at that, looking at people looking at the photos was very good because they're so small. So you got usually one person per photo. I didn't have my big Canon with me, so I just shot it on the iPhone.
Really?
And I just edited them yesterday, in fact.
Did you enjoy it?
I did, yeah. I mean, there have been complaints that there's been 4 major shows of hers in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So, okay, we all know Lee Miller's a great photographer, but why don't they show a few more British photographers at Tate?
Yeah.
The only living one they've ever shown is Don McCullin.
Yeah.
So there's all this talent, and that's partly where the foundation here comes in.
Yeah.
You know, we collect all the other people that perhaps the others, the Tate have got other great images in their collection, but Tate Britain never show alive photographers. If you just say the same about painters or sculptors, they say, well, of course, we've shown 20, 30 of both.
Yeah.
What's the problem?
Yeah.
Do you know the problem?
We want to ask about this because I feel passionately, and I've heard you say the same thing, that we live in a country that doesn't respect photography. And I wondered whether you had any thoughts as to how that's come about. I mean, in some sense, it doesn't matter because we all know we love photography, but it is a bit annoying. But why have we ended up in this country?
I don't think they trust photography here. There's a sort of natural distrust of it. While there's, painting, drawing, words, writing, theatre, film. But photography is always seen as the poor man. I mean, there are some, look at the big broadsheets here, and their main art reviewers very rarely do photography.
Yeah.
So, for example, I had a show at NPG, I had a show at the Barbican, and I think the Telegraph did something, but all the others, Sunday Times, Guardian, no reviews whatsoever.
Yeah.
Not a single one.
And yet, if you were in Russia or America or Eastern Europe or France, you'd be kind of, somebody once said to me, it's as though when the camera was invented, in England, they said, oh, that's a clever trick. It can capture reality in front of it. In all these other countries, they went, wow, what could we do with that if we played around with it? And I wonder what it is about the English mentality, of which you are a master.
Right. Well, obviously, we want to change it. I mean, 2004 was the first year that the Tate actually collected photography in its own right. Before that, the only photographs that entered the museum collection would be artists who use photography.
Which is outrageous.
And I have a big show in Paris in January at the Jeu de Paume. And I know that every single paper of any sort of stature will go and review it. I'll probably be doing interviews for all of them as well as a feature beforehand. I know the response will be so different from here.
Yeah.
I think it was Elliot Erwitt that said, taking a good photograph is rather like finding a needle in a haystack, which you referred to just now, about how difficult it is. And he said, so the idea is always to throw a whole load of needles in the haystack before you go looking. So where do you find that you're more likely to find the needles? What are your haystacks that make you, yes, I'm going there?
Well, I suppose going to events where there is lots of people, so whether it's a party, fashion show, agricultural show, the seaside, the more people there are, generally speaking, the easier it is to throw needles out.
Yes.
And, so generally I would go to an event, look for the potential, and then hone in on it. Like even photographing Lee Miller show this week.
Yes.
Immediately I walked in, I thought, wow, there's a photo.
Yeah.
So it didn't take me very long to get my phone out and start shooting.
You're very charismatic to meet as an individual.
Thank you.
So I think my radar would be out if you were taking a photograph. But obviously, you've mastered being the invisible man.
I guess so. It's not something I think about a lot, to be honest.
No.
And there are tricks you can employ. Just swinging around, swinging away. Because I often use flash.
Yes.
Just as a kiss, a flash rather than big flash.
Yeah.
So if you move away, someone's looking up. By the time they've looked up, I'm looking at something else.
Yeah.
So, you get this sort of intimidation. So when photographers look at a person and they're photographing them, they look back at them and you look guilty. Yeah. That's not going to help.
No.
I saw you say, I love that notion that you just don't have any guilt. You just move on and you don't even have eye contact.
Yeah. And then you get the people who say, what on earth are you doing? Because there's like 1 in 50 people in the world that hate being photographed.
Yeah.
They say it's illegal, which of course is not. You can photograph anyone you like in a UK public space.
Yeah.
But nowadays you can just show the person, and given that it's yet another of my bad photos, I'll happily delete it and move on.
Well, so I want to come to that. So you told us before we went on air, when we went live with the recording, that you thought maybe, in a year you might take 5 to 10 great photos, maybe.
Yeah,
and
a good year.
In a good year. And I've heard you on other occasions say, if you go out to photograph, you might take 200, 300, 400, 500 photos in a day. So that leads me to an obvious question, which is, what is your editing process? How quickly do you get into that, and do you delete or do you hide?
So no, I go to the screen because I've shot them digitally.
Yeah.
Next door, the production department, get them on the screen. I go through, make an edit. We then get them high-res files sent off to a lab in Manchester, and we get back the following day the 10.8 prints. And I then edit from the 10.8 prints. So I never edit from a screen.
Interesting.
And you'll see in the round the corner there, you'll see there's boxes, hundreds of them, with 10.8 prints in from all my career. Because obviously when I was working in black and white, I'd make 10.8 prints in black and white to make sure the photos are any bad or any good. And then, so over the years, I've accumulated maybe 750,000 10.8 prints.
Because, so let's say yesterday you'd been out and you'd taken 350 pictures. How many 10.8 prints?
Oh, yeah, maybe 35.
Okay.
And then that would come down to 10 for the edit to the Magnum site.
Amazing.
Because you remember, although most of these photographs aren't great photos, they have a value as a documentary in itself. So that's the important thing. So in fact, many of the photos you take, become more interesting in 40 years' time.
Yes.
Than they are.
Just through the period of time.
Yes, because fashions change.
How many of those go to Magnum?
I've got 56,000 images on the Magnum site, which are all keyworded and ready to download. So yeah, quite a lot.
My producer said, can you pick your favourite Martin Parr photograph? Which is sort of impossible. But this is what I came up with at the end of the day.
This is a famous picture from The Last Resort. Quite different to the others because there's no flash. It's an old couple sat in a cafe. The guy's, he got his sort of cigarette hanging from his mouth. The wife is looking at her hands. Beautiful pale blue and pink backdrop. Nice lights up in the sky. So it's become, I guess, quite an icon. It would be even one of my best photos from that particular year.
Is there anything that you can tell me which I might not have picked up about that picture?
Well, I guess it's a good picture. I mean, I like the guy. This is shot during my time at New Brighton, but it also appeared in Bored Couples. I did get contacted by the son or the daughter of this couple, and we had a conversation, and we agreed that we wouldn't use it for any, commercial purposes.
Yes,
we can print it editorially,
yes,
but not use it in an ad. Because many ad agents came to me and said, "We want to use this picture." It's like as a sarky comment of why someone doesn't want to do something, thus advertising it. And I've had to recreate this photo a few times, and other people have also recreated it. So I guess it must ring a certain bell. I can't remember now if I was taking more than one shot of this image. It'd be interesting for me to look at the contact prints and see, was it the first, or was there 6 others or before it? It's most likely to be before it that weren't as good.
Yeah.
Because, getting the hands and the cigarette in the right place was absolutely, that's what made the picture.
You said something which really interested me, and I wondered if we could sort of dig into it a little bit. You said, I'm trying to use photography as honestly as I can. It's much easier to hide behind a stereotype. So I'm trying to use photography as honestly as I can. It's much easier to hide behind a stereotype. And I think I understand what you're saying. And I want to ask you whether I've understood this correctly. Is it and I'm really interested, genuinely fascinated by this. Is it that other photographers, in a sense, learn what they think through a sort of stereotypical version a great photograph is, and just constantly kind of try to replicate that in their mind, whereas you've ventured off and been a bit more daring. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, that's quite a good analysis, in fact. Very rarely do people get as close to being accurate as you have. No, I start with a cliche and then subvert it. And you're absolutely right. All photographers, especially all those thousands of amateur photographers out there who really want to be better, I guess the people in the camera clubs, people using Instagram, they have an idea in their head of the sort of, and I have them as well, 1,000 greatest pictures ever taken, and they try and replicate that. And that's the sort of goalpost that they hang on to. My job is to avoid that goalpost, but start from it. So absolutely, yes.
And
you're right.
It's only when I started to understand that I really began to sort of think I might begin to understand. There's so much that I found fascinating in researching around this. One of the other things you said, because you've also made me think about myself, and I think, oh my God, shit, he's right. I'm thinking of that Cartier-Bresson photo or whatever, and I'm trying. So you so nailed something that in some ways it's the most interesting thing I've ever heard a photographer say. I'm so good. So the next question that follows from that, to me, you also said I can enjoy looking at a bad photo. I can even enjoy looking at a bad photograph. And on another interview, you said there are not as many great photographs as you think. Both of those make sense to me, but it leads me to the question: what do you think makes a good or a bad photograph? I know that's a hard question, but I wonder.
It's almost impossible to describe. I mean,
it's sort of instinct.
Yeah, and it has a sort of tail to it. It has some contradiction built into it. Because
in a way, I suppose we use the stereotypical stuff to judge photos, don't we? So if you're going to break out of that, how do we know? This is what's so amazing about your work, is you've gone down this other route. And how does one judge it in a way? Well, it's very simple, I would say, in the sense that, we get lots of books sent here. We get lots of people sending in their PDFs. I look at them, okay, I look at everything, because I'm always looking out for new people. That's a good game to play. And I guess when I see some work and I don't recognize where it's come from, I get interested. So otherwise, you can very quickly see Nangold in there, Philip Dorcas, of course, there, et cetera, et cetera. You can see all the big photographers who've had a big influence on other photographers, especially those trying to find their way, because you've got to, if you like, you've got to copy someone before you can be yourself. Yeah. So that's immediately when I'm going to a book fair and there'll be 1,000 books out over 50 stalls. How do you know where to stop and start? So it takes me about 5 seconds. I hate to say, you know if you got something. The moment you don't recognize it, you get excited. Yeah. And then you look further and think, oh no, I got that slightly wrong. Or yes, this is even better than I thought. I'm going to risk asking you a question that I suspect others do ask you, but I think it's useful to hear it from you, which is because it also relates back to the stereotype question, which is what your influences were, even for you to get to where you got to. Yeah. And I'm aware, in a sense, there's probably two answers to that. There's the black and white influences and then the color influences. Right. Yes, there are 3 phases, really. Because first off, there is my grandfather, who's a very keen amateur photographer, FRPS, bromoil worker. Yeah. Which is a process where you sort of bleach out the picture and then re-ink it, so you can change the tone. It's a bit like a sort of by hand analog Photoshop. Yes, with brushes. Yeah. Okay. So he lent me a camera, went out shooting, processed film, made prints. So by the age of about 13 or 14, I wanted to be a photographer. And then there's a picture. I don't know if you saw the biography I've just published. Yeah. With a great title. There, and there's one picture there which I took when I was about 16. With a horse, a tree, and a woman. And this is the one I thought, wow, this is amazing. Something's happening here that even I hadn't really understood how interesting it is. And that's the thing that made me think, this is it. I'm on a journey to become a photographer. Nothing's going to stop me. So then you go to Manchester and you start to be introduced to a bunch of people from America who were doing Yes, so our craft teacher, Phil, God, what was his name? Anyway, our craft teacher subscribed to Creative Camera magazine, and in those pages, because Bill Jay, the editor, had just discovered these American photographers, courtesy of Tony Ray Jones, and this is where we saw Friedlander, Winogrand, that whole generation, Robert Frank, and we all thought, wow, these are great photographs. This is the thing to really sort of copy and emulate. And then Bill Jay in person came to Manchester Polytechnic and gave a talk and showed a lot of Tony Ray Jones pictures. We all were completely excited, because the staff there would have no knowledge of Tony Ray Jones or interest in him. And so that was a real revelation.
Sadly, I never got to meet him because he died very young in 1972. I was still at college then, so I didn't really think about going out to meet photographers. But he's still probably my favourite, well, certainly one of the top 3 favourite British photographers. And, the work he did in the late 60s is quite fantastic. Very difficult to beat. So he set the bar very high.
So can we see, in your early work, can we see his influence? Or can you see his influence?
I think so, yeah, because you look at the black and white work, there's the same kind of, awareness of the edges of frames, right? Because previous to that, the sort of British narrative was put something in the middle and surround it by something. This generation of photographers invented the idea of the space between things when they didn't invent it, but they just made it work for them.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, the main number one lesson I took from all of them, and especially for Tony Lloyd-Jones. So this picture here of Steep Lane Baptist Chapel, 2 layers. So you need those layers on top of each other to make the picture work. Downstairs is 4 old ladies, upstairs a much younger bunch. And it's really the space between them that I'm photographing rather than the people themselves.
And it is such a perfect, I mean, it just blows my mind. And I'll come back to that. But you also, there's a lovely story attached to somebody coming up to
There
you.
is, yes, because we have the Albert Street Workshop where we presented pictures, pinned them on the wall. And someone came in and said they'd like to buy the bottom half of the picture because they didn't know the people in the top.
I love that.
So we gave them the full print anyway. So there's somewhere around, there's half a photo, half a Martin Parr to be found in Hebden Bridge.
But there's just things like this. Do you feel this? So we should describe this picture of a man in his doorway on a step ladder with 1 foot in the air.
That's it. That's really it.
And is that influenced by those American,
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I mean, I took it all in. I soaked it up. It was like goodness, it was like squeezing beautiful juice out of a mango.
Yeah.
It was, it's really what made it all worthwhile.
When you took that photograph, you walked past,
Exactly.
saw it,
He was doing
took
it,
it, and carried on walking. I mean, if I had taken that photograph, I would punch the air. There would be no way of saying, pretending I hadn't taken the photograph. It's absolutely wonderful.
I don't think I was punching the air.
No.
I was quietly optimistic that it would work out.
But do you know, it's one of those extraordinary ones. You can look at it upside down and it's still brilliant. I'm looking at it upside down now. Every way you look at that picture, it is fantastic. I love it. We can't not talk about that.
This is unbelievable.
Do you love that
That's
picture?
also Steep Lane Baptist Chapel, but it's the anniversary tea. So all these nonconformist chapels around Hebden Bridge, which is my main subject matter, they have birthdays. It's called the anniversary. And they have in the morning a service, 11 o'clock, and then they have an evening one at 6 o'clock. And in the afternoon, they do anniversary tea. And that was a great, basic place for me to take photographs. And this is Steep Lane. And here we are in front of a montage, not a montage, a painting with Jesus Christ. I don't know if it's the Last Supper.
I think it is.
I think it is the Last Supper.
Yeah.
And here's a woman putting sugar in her tea. So that's I guess,
It's just
that's
so
the sweetener.
Does it not? Do you not look at that and just think, well, I have just taken the perfect photograph?
Well, I was pretty pleased when I got it. Yeah.
They make you smile inside.
Yes. No, I mean,
Absolutely.
I do smile when I'm out there photographing because basically people are funny and interesting and quirky. And, especially when it starts raining, people do strange things. So, we all collectively do very strange things. And that I like, and it's often very funny.
Yeah.
And I think that's one reason, but there's a sense of mischief there as well in the photographs. That's another reason why the French like me, because I'm showing them, I'm pulling the leg of the English, and they like that because it saves them having to do it.
But we've shown a lot of black and white ones at the moment. Do you look back on those as sort of, because I know you so relished the moment you did go to colour. Do you look back on, how do you feel when you look back at the early stuff?
Oh, with great affection. Yeah. And I've done shows of that. There's a book called Early Works. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
And there's the nonconformist work. We couldn't get that published at the time, interestingly. So I could only get it published 30 years later. But better late than never, I always say.
Cambridge said something to me yesterday. And I think it's a genuine Cambridge description of you.
Basically, I was saying at the end of my research and looking at all of your stuff, I felt I had a version that I could articulate. And Hugo's now put me slightly on the spot, but I'm going to say it to you and see if you think it makes sense. I said, I don't think there's any judgment in any of this work. I think this is a man who is absolutely intrigued and fascinated by the human race, almost as a species, as one might be of an animal race. You're interested in how we operate as a social group in the way that a wildlife photographer might be interested in some other.
Yes, you're right, but there is also politics in the images. And interestingly, next January in Paris with this Jeu de Paume show, Quentin Bajac, the curator, has sort of really brought out the political in the pictures. And the show is called Global Warning. So it's the first time, really, where I've always said it's there if you look.
Yeah.
Only if you look. If you want a bit of street entertainment, it's also there as well, because hopefully the colours are bright and the patterns are nice. But if you want to, it can be found.
But you've always said they have to find it. But
yes, well, here we're just giving them a helping hand.
Okay.
I'm fascinated that your grandfather was a photographer and that inspired you. My mother was a photographer and that inspired me. Lee Miller's father was a photographer. It does happen that photographers are introduced at a very early age. And then you have, obviously, the parental or the grandparental sort of encouragement that spurs you on. But there must be a point, and we can call it a breakthrough moment, when actually you realize. Now, you realized it for yourself with the photograph of the tree, the horse, and the woman. And I loved your words, because that's exactly what I felt when I had this photograph of a horse. I couldn't understand why the adults were acting differently in the room. But was there a moment like that breakthrough moment, but professionally, where suddenly you weren't taking the photographs for you or for your immediate family fan club, but other people were responding? Can you remember when you got the positive response from outside?
Well, I guess, during the early part of my career, I would do shows on a much smaller level, at things like the Impressions Gallery in York. So there you get a response from the curator of those museums and for the audience coming to see it. And people you see on the opening night.
That's someone reacting to one of your pictures. But did you push for those shows, or were you invited to those shows?
A bit of both, really. I was doing a bit of networking, but at a very simplistic way.
For young listeners, aspiring photographers, I always like to emphasize that beyond being just a photographer, there has to be an entrepreneur within you as well, which I think must be a strong part of you to go out and get these shows, to be where we are now. And that's, would you say you can teach yourself that? Is it you either have it or you don't?
Bit of both, really. Some photographers get discovered in a different way, like, say, Richard Billingham, who is doing the portraits of his family for a painting. Yeah. And then the photography tutor bumped into them, Julian Germain, and said, wow, these are great. And he said, yeah, well, I suppose they are. And then so suddenly he became, the rising star of photography within the young YBAs.
There is a very real sense in which you are a conceptual artist, isn't there?
Yeah.
Project. It's kind of, this isn't just random photographs that you happen to like. And I was looking back at those abandoned cars in Ireland and so on. And in a way, it goes through all your books. Would that be a fair description?
It would. It's something I like, and I often fall back on it as being a very good way of articulating an idea. So yes, it does come in quite a lot.
I love that.
Yeah. But it's not it's not the main agenda.
No,
the main agenda is to get a great photo. You can take a few pictures, like say the abandoned Morris miners of the west of Ireland. You'll be able to pull out a few of those pictures which work in on their own, but look at them all together and it makes a lot more sense.
Is this the way to get into the colour stuff? Is the last resort the moment to
I think so, yeah. So coming up to the last resort, I basically cabbed the fact that, the Americans were showing colour photographs in museums, Eggleston, Meyeritz, Shaw, that whole crew. Of course, I've seen these colour pictures. A woman called Sally Eclair was coming over and talking about this new generation of colour photographers in a book called The New Colour. And I saw this. And at the same time, or just before it, I'd been working at Butlins. And at Butlins, I found these amazing postcards done by John Hind, which I thought were absolutely brilliant. I collected these. I was doing black and white pictures in Butlins, and I compared them to the colour pictures that he was doing. And I thought, well, his is much better. Yeah. Simple as that. Yeah. And I guess at the same time, when I moved back from Ireland to the UK in 1982, they just introduced this new camera called a Plough-Bell, 6x7. And Peter Fraser, my great friend, had bought one. And he said I should buy one. And I did go out and buy one. And the first thing I did, living a mile and a half from New Brighton, I thought, I'm going to photograph here. Because I knew New Brighton had a lot going for it. And so that was it. Off I went, and there was no looking back. I worked at Butlins. That was my training.
Yeah.
First as a black and white walkie, and then second year I was promoted to be a colour walkie, which meant I could go into the Beachcomber bar where they had a thunderstorm every half hour. So it was very colourful. And that's when I learned the great thing about selling photos is heads together.
Oh, yeah.
That's how to sell a photo. If you've got, if you're randomly going around somewhere and they're pinned up later, that's how you sell the picture.
Yes.
What is a walkie? Sorry.
A walkie goes round and takes photos. They haven't actually paid for them.
Right.
Okay?
And then you display them.
And then they're displayed the following day and people buy them. You, of course, get a cut of that. So that's how you earned your money at Butlins.
Can I risk something now, which is I look at this. I grew up massively admiring Cartier-Bresson. I look at this and I genuinely in your work see something that I think exceeds that talent. And I can't, as you say, I can't describe why. I just look at it and I know. Now, the question is whether you in your life have felt misunderstood because people weren't getting what you were doing. Because there have been moments when it seems to me there have been various moments, whether it's the Magnum moment or the Serpentine Gallery moment, where people have kind of not got it.
Sure. They've got it, but didn't like it. Right. But Cartier-Bresson included. Yeah. And of course, within Magnum, the anti-Parr brigade was led by Philip Jones Griffiths,
right.
The esteemed photojournalist from Wales. But you're right insofar the controversy that The Last Resort caused was interesting insofar it was first shown in Liverpool with Tom Wood, and then those same pictures went down to the Serpentine, and that's when it got a lot of critique. People didn't like it. And I don't know what it is in these photos that either I can see why people are drawn in, but I don't see why people have such a strong dislike of them. It's always something that intrigues me. And in fact, the very fact that happened didn't do them any harm. But did you feel misunderstood and hurt in some way? Not hurt. I mean, because I knew I was right. I knew I'd done what I needed to do. So I wasn't really hurt. I was just, yes, I guess you could argue that people didn't get what I was doing. I mean, still to this day, there are anti-Parr people around. And, when you look on Instagram, sometimes people, this is rubbish, I could have taken a better picture kind of thing. Those kind of comments. But obviously there's something going on. Otherwise I wouldn't have the shows and the books that I have. Just so we don't lose it, because it's part of the same thing. I find it extraordinary, that notion when they're considering your application for Magnum, and there's that famous thing. Tell me if it's apocryphal. The saying was that half of Magnum would leave if you were made a member, and the other half would leave if you weren't. Well, that was Francois Habel's very entertaining analysis. And to a certain extent, he was right. But of course, no one did actually leave. Right. And I certainly haven't destroyed Magnum, which is what Philip Jones Griffiths And you went on to predicted. Be president. I went to be president, and now I'm one of their biggest earners. Right. So, they and I enjoy being part of the cooperative. And I've met some fantastic people. And even the photographers I don't much like meeting them too. Is this one of the ones that would have caused consternation in the Serpentine? Possibly, yeah. And I just think they have so misunderstood what you're doing. To me, it's just, this is capturing real interaction, real love with this baby. The baby's having fun with a bright red Coke can. But to me, you've merged two things. You've merged your photographer's eye of what's going to work photographically with a real interest in these animals we call humans. But the main thing about this photo is the baby drinking Coke, which is going to appall the middle-class audience, isn't it? No, I often think to myself, still The Last Resort is my best-selling book. And it's 40 years ago. I think, what's happened? You're meant to be at the climax of your creative career, and it all started and faded after 40 years ago. I think not. But no, you know what I mean, though.
I think all photographers think that, though, don't we? We all look back on our earlier stuff and go, my God, I didn't realize how good I was. Because we were raw and hungry then, right? Yeah. Hungry, angry, and raw.
I wondered if you've ever thought about your own character, and particularly the way you interact with people, and whether that's actually a hidden secret.
Not really. No, I don't think it's a hidden secret. I mean, I sort of tend to linger. I'm not looking at the thing that I'm interested in. That's the thing that's important.
I'll tell you what made me think it.
Wait, say that again. You're not looking at the things.
Basically, you arrive at a situation, you start photographing, funny things may happen. So first, someone may spot you and it'll be immediately ruined, okay?
Yes, yes.
Although there are a few occasions when someone looking around, like the green ice cream lady, she looking at me there made the picture.
Absolutely.
So it just shows you, just when
Yeah.
you think you've got the rules sorted out,
Yeah.
here's the exception, okay?
Yeah, yeah,
And then you're shooting away and the situation is either going to get better or it's going to get worse.
yeah,
You may have to move a bit, okay?
yeah.
You have to move around a bit, sidle here or there, or someone who was key to that picture walks away.
Yeah,
That often happens, okay?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, you're basically, you're relying on what you see in front of you, and it's luck as much
Yeah.
as anything else. I mean, what photographers do is we look for nice patterns and we photograph them.
Yeah.
We all need patterns.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to find something that links together. So I always think that's what actually we're up to. It's just a very simple exercise.
I used to take photographs for a magazine called Tatler and their social pages.
Of course, I
bystander,
know that, yeah.
which is a sort of variation of what you do. And I used to find that there were two ways of getting the photographs. And the first one was, it was like an imaginary, it might be a red dot or it might be a rugby ball in a pitch. You have to imagine and you follow that ball around the event, and that's where the pictures are. But after a bit, the ball or the red dot stopped moving. And I found that if you actually sat down, pictures will come to you. Do you find that sometimes the picture, if you sit still, the pictures will come to you?
Yeah, that can happen
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
But normally you have to move round to sort of get the. Remember, we're creating patterns and we're looking at the space between things.
Yeah.
But I've got to follow up on that because I look at this picture and I'm trying to work out, are you customer side or?
Yes, I'm not. I'm ice cream side.
Yeah. So
They're the customers.
Yes, exactly. So she's presumably agreed for you to stand there?
Yes, and she must have thought there's a flash going, and you know she turns around and says, "What the fuck are you doing?" kind of thing.
Yeah.
She doesn't actually say that, I don't think.
No,
But that's what she looks
the
like.
expression.
That's the expression. Yeah.
So the reason I asked the question about whether your character is instrumental in some of it is, there's a moment I've seen you do a few times where you take a picture and they start to smile and you go, no, just be normal.
Yeah.
And I find that instruction so mind-boggling. Like,
Right.
if somebody said to me, "Be normal," I don't,
Yeah.
and I feel like there's a way you interact with people which somehow you get them to do that. But
Mhm.
that's
Somehow,
a
yeah.
certain talent.
Because what's so annoying, you go to say, a disco, and you're wandering around, and then you'll suddenly see like 3 or 4 people merge in front of you, smiling, and they want you to take a picture. And I guess you have to really, and then
Yeah.
just immediately delete it.
Yeah.
And it gets so annoying. And you say to them,
Yeah.
I'm trying to do, non-posing pictures.
Yeah.
And that annoys them.
Yeah.
But that's just something we all have to deal with.
But
Yeah.
you've managed
knowing
to,
that,
you've managed to get them to do this. As portrait photographers, half our job somehow is to get them into some sort of natural.
seriousness,
Well, that's the question. But something that looks natural. But you just literally say to them, "Just be normal," and
Yeah.
I find that magic that they just do whatever it is you're saying.
sometimes people just won't. But
Right.
yeah, generally I'd say 75% of people.
And I
do
think
look normal.
that's why I think your character is actually your secret weapon, because somehow you've got this ability to get them to just turn this on. I've got 2 questions I'm really keen to ask. One is from Grayson Perry's rather beautiful, I think he picked it up from Twitter, that lovely comment about the Coronation Day being Martin Parr Day. And of course, that brings me round to ask whether, so for those who didn't hear or see it, but basically Grayson Perry saw on Twitter somebody saying it was around the coronation, wasn't it? And they said, "What? This should just be called Martin Parr Day," and all the bunting and all the fates and everything. But that in a non-jokey way, I think that does lead one to the question of whether you feel to some degree you have helped to define Britishness over the years. I mean, you've certainly recorded it, but have you also in a way shaped it?
Not really, because I guess, apart from flags, and apart from the fact that I've done a lot of photos, there isn't so much that is definitely British. I mean, agricultural shows, I guess they're very British.
I don't know,
I guess
chips,
there is.
ice cream.
Yeah, no, I guess you're right. But I think if I look at something like Watching the English by Kate Fox, which is written, of course, she gets more of the sort of sense of Britishness in those her descriptions than perhaps I do in my photographs.
Yeah, so in a way you're saying if it's there, it's an accidental byproduct. It's not part of the grand goal.
But I mean, part of the goal is also to create a legacy, which is, this very big archive on Britain and particularly England in the time that I've lived through it in that 55-year period. And that's something I'm very conscious of now as I'm getting less able to photograph because I'm getting older and I've got myeloma. So this year, I think I've done more photos in any other year,
Really?
actually. Yes,
Yeah.
I've been at it, non-stop, almost in the sense of panic. I've got to get this done before I'm unable to do it. Because remember, even, the search for the good photo continues always, but then you also want to show photographs that are describing and documenting different aspects of England which are so important or need to be sort of shown in the archive.
I had a question which we were mulling over whether I could ask. And you may not
go
want,
on, be a devil.
Well, you may not want to ask, but it seemed to me
How much do I earn?
No. It was much more. We know quite a lot about how you work and the way you work, and we've got the evidence of your. What we don't know much about is what the Parr family life is like at home when you're not working. In a sense, what are the interests?
I have a great partner. We've been together for about 50 years. Very supportive, so she helps me a lot. And we get on very well, basically, and we do all kinds of things, and it's great, yeah.
But it
won't last forever, so I don't know who's going to go first. Probably me,
because that is covered in the film, and it's clear that you and Susie have a wonderful relationship. That was evident, but it did seem to me that the leisure time seemed to involve you both going on holiday and you taking more pictures. So that's why I'm asking the question.
Yes,
it's like what in between working and being on holiday working.
Yeah, we don't have holidays. I don't have holidays. Susie has them.
Yes.
We go to somewhere by the sea.
Yeah.
Can be all over the world in terms of countries. She swims and I photographs. But it's the perfect marriage.
I get that, but I want the bit in between. Like, do you sit
and watch movies?
When
we go and have an eat.
Do you go down the pub?
I watch the 10 o'clock news.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you watch movies? Do you watch?
I do. We like movies.
Watch TV.
Yep.
Yeah.
We went for a nice meal last night. Oh, there's the phone.
There you go. So, okay, I'll accept that. It's a normal life.
I want to know if there is one moment where you were sitting there with your camera that you were having an experience that you could only be having as a photographer, and you thanked your lucky stars. Wow, I am so lucky to be a photographer because this right now is happening to me.
Well, that happens, thousands upon thousands of days time. It's a recurring thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's taken me there.
An experience beyond just, for me, for example, I loved standing on the side of a river in Africa watching wildebeest charge towards me. I was only there because I was a photographer. Has there been an experience?
Yeah, I think with the season, which of course I photographed, as have you, I think going to Henley Steward's Enclosure for the first time was probably as good as it gets.
Right.
You've been there?
Yes.
Steward's Enclosure?
No, I don't think I've been in the Steward's.
Yeah, that's where it all happens. Right. So I thought that was amazing. And it's striped jackets, what's not to like?
Yeah.
But I've been to Henley maybe 3 times now. Yeah. And of course, you're not meant to photograph. They don't let any journalists in. Yeah. So I've always sneaked in. One of our patrons is a member there, so he can get me a ticket any day.
Yeah.
And I just love it. It's still probably the most photogenic, event in Britain.
That so beautifully epitomizes to me this nature of you as the kind of chronicler of this strange beast. That the Steward's Enclosure at Henley is the ultimate goal. We love our listeners to kind of hear a couple of top tips from each guest, if possible.
Okay. Unless you're obsessed, you're basically going to fail. So why not get out now and save yourself all that bother and all that film, especially if you're an analog photographer who thinks their work is going to be better because they shot it on film. Okay, if you survive that process...
Is it too late for us?
No, this is great. I love this. Best top tip we've ever had.
We've got to chuck it in now. Okay. Now,
if you pass that test, then you've got to find a subject matter that really interests you, one that you can have and grow a sort of direct relationship with. And that relationship growth with all the knowledge that you've accumulated of how other people have taken photographs, if you apply that to your particular group or particular idea or subject, could even be a mountain, you might get some interesting pictures. If you start to get interesting pictures, you have to look at them and say, why is this one more interesting than those 10? And you have to analyze why that one's more interesting and go and take more pictures like that. Basically, if you did all those things, you'd do all right.
You got a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it. We also like to ask listener questions. So we get questions sent in, some of which we keep. And Hugo, do you want to?
Clara would like to know, if you could capture a certain community in a different country, where would you venture?
I mean, all these crazy clubs in America would be good stamping ground. The Americans are very easy to photograph, and it's great fun. So I'm sure I could find, a smaller club with great enthusiasts that would be very interesting to dive into and do properly.
Is that like a beach club? Or
Could be a beach club, yeah.
Gun club.
Or yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're coming up with these ideas, right?
Saul asks, do you think of yourself as a documentarist or an artist?
Documentary. Although annoyingly on my site, on my Instagram, it says artist. And I keep meaning to change it, but I never get around to it. Perhaps part of me is reluctant to let that go.
Well, it kind of goes back to the notion of photography and art in Britain, doesn't it? As what are we?
Yes, there's that. But also we miss, my promiscuity, because I love the fact that the same photo can hang on the Tate and be printed on a T-shirt or a jigsaw.
Yes.
That's the democracy of photography, and I love that very much.
Thank you so much, Martin. It's been an absolute genuine pleasure and honour. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Really lovely.
I've loved it.
Me too.
Thank you.
Great. Should we do a tour now then?
Yes, please.
Unless, do you want a cup of tea immediately?